There we are. I'm not in.
What is up, Headhunters? And I guess you're in, Neil. Neil. Hey, what is up, Headhunters?
I'm in now,
Recruiters and hashtag the Herc. Hey, welcome to another edition of Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. I believe this is show lucky number 13. So Friday the 13th. Yeah. So I think with that being said, this show's going to go off without a hitch and no technical issues at all. So with that being said, welcome everybody. Welcome to Neil Lebovits. Thank you for making the show. And also our special guest this week, actually a very close and personal friend, maybe a little bit too personal at times, but that's cool. He is still a very handsome, striking man. James Pemberton. You're James. What's up, James?
How you doing?
What a great name, by the way, huh?
Fantastic.
Pemberton. That's like a totally rocking name, especially for recruiting or anything. I love it.
Yeah,
Pemberton. I'd love to have it.
It's very English.
Invented Coke, evidently. Coca-Cola, not cocaine.
Yes.
Coca-Cola.
Very English, by the way. Very English. Kind of like pluck
Right,
rose, kind of like.
It is English.
So
Hello, I'm James Pemberton III.
That's about the shittiest English.
Hello.
Well, no, look, I can't even
James
do one. I can't even attempt. So, anyway, guys, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming in. So we are right now broadcasting live on our Facebook page as well as in the group. If you guys have any questions, please post them up. If you want to have your question up on the screen with your beautiful face, all you have to do is click on this link right here. I want to throw it in the comments. Click on the link, allow Facebook to permission, and then we'll show you up on the screen, and it'll all be good to go. So, James, please,
yes, sir.
Could you introduce yourself?
No,
what do you do?
You do this every week. Every week. The banter gets less and less. Our ratings go down with less banter. I know you want to get right to the meat and potatoes.
I'm trying to be professional, sir. I'm losing sales left and right. Losing sales left and right. People don't want to work with the likes of a kind of man who would run a show such as this, a shit show. So we're trying to keep things professional, sir. Headhunters and boxers. We don't have any sponsors yet. We're not paying any bills with our.
We're not, and this sucks because this is going to be my side gig. This is going to be my way to fortune for my children's education. And the show, we've got no producers calling us like expected.
Poor kids, man.
We're into this for a while.
Oh man. All right. So okay. Let's dive right into it. So James, I got to ask you, in all seriousness, we're going to keep this a serious show.
Okay.
So would you say average, above average, below?
You're very handsome. You're above average.
We'll go above average. We'll go above average.
All right. Very good. Very good. I like it. Oh, you always got to be selling yourself. Always have to sell yourself. You have a unique selling proposition, your USP, as it were, and USPness. And you got to be, again, that's excellent. USPness. Yeah.
I want you to use that. That's good.
Well, my training, so in my training, talk a lot about USPs, and everybody talks about their USP. When you sell yourself, like, well, I'm 20 years experience and blah 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 blah, and you're USPing all over everybody because everybody does USP. So that's kind of how I say it in training because it's kind of funny and just kind of that's.
If you pee on them,
did you always say that, or did you get that after my DS penis?
I don't know. It all kind of blends. I'm gonna have drunken haze half the time, so I'm not even sure what day it is right now. To be honest with you.
I just figured out it was Friday today.
Well, DSP, if it's recent, like in the last month or two, I'm going to suggest that you got DS penis from me on the show. But I don't mind. I'm honored.
I think I did. Well, I frequently take things from people and I do not give them any credit whatsoever. Like being handsome. I got handsome from James Pemberton and I don't give them credit.
That's right.
They just repackage the same shit. There's a lot of that. There is a lot of that in the industry. When I first came in, actually, one of my big things was I would talk crap about other traders, but I would talk crap about the industry as a whole because it is a lot of just rehashing the same thing all the time, and I think it can get pretty obvious for sure. I mean, look, that guy Neil Lebovits is in. if you watch any of his videos, his training videos, it's basically just rehashed, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day.
Oh my God, that's so hurtful.
Yeah.
Why? Wow.
Is it like a cover band?
I'm just
like
kidding.
a cover band or
like good ones.
Cover trainer.
I think most everything is rehashed. Technology stuff, you tailor it and you create your own, weaving it so that you have a something systematic that really works. Again, like we're going to talk about with SEO today with James, right? You too. I mean, what have you haven't created? And I'm not being funny. I'm not being retaliatory.
No, I'm really going to give credit to a lesson that was really well done, and there's no reason to redo it. The guy that taught me it's a really hands-on lesson. So it's not just hands-on, but it's very easy to understand. So I'm going to borrow it from the guy and give him credit because that's why change it. It's perfect.
Well, when it comes to that, I mean, it's not. I mean, there's rehashing for sure, but there are new concepts or new ways of looking at things. I think one of the big things that really helped me was bringing in concepts from outside the industry and apply them to here, because there's lots of things that or lots of ideas, lots of trainings that were kind of stale, and being able to bring in some outside concepts from the sales world that maybe are a little bit more advanced that we're not doing here if work quite well. And I think that's a big part of it. And another part of it too is implementation. I mean, sometimes, look, at the end of the day, people like to implement with me versus somebody else. So, it's all about who do you connect with, who would you want to implement with? Because, there's information everywhere, man. Everywhere. It's all about the implementation.
Listen, Anthony Robbins stole all of his crap. There's not one original thought, and I'm not mocking the guy because he's awesome, but he's like the first guy to really package like 100 different experts. He packaged all industrial psychology and all that stuff. It's not his, and he'll quote a lot of people's stuff. James, self-taught in SEO, right? He'll tell a story, but he decided to go in and just immerse himself in mastery classes for SEO, and then he tailored it to how do I make this work in the recruiting realm, right? And then that's now he's really an expert in it, ranks so highly, like top in like everything that he puts on. He's gonna be doing my site and stuff. He's went into healthcare recruiting and he wanted to do healthcare staffing, and like overnight, James. I mean, like. Crazy, right?
Like it was overnight. It would, it's not overnight for sure. SEO is definitely not an overnight thing for sure. I actually look at SEO as more of a turbocharger in someone's marketing game, because if they don't have the foundations that DSP or whoever's teaching in terms of your outbound game, if you're not doing those repetitions, when you get some inbound stuff from SEO, you're not going to be sharp. And I see a lot of companies and people they want to use SEO as their engine, and then of course it doesn't work, because it's not supposed to be the engine. It's for those that already have all those other foundational things set up so that they can really maximize, because you're going to get a couple leads and they're going to be really high end. I mean, I've got a couple really, really great ones that I wouldn't have got had I not been on the search engines, but it'd be a lie to say that SEO for recruitment is something a recruiter should be looking at right away. It's something long-term play, branding play. Absolutely. But instant results, it's not going to happen.
Okay. However, but James, without being modest, how quickly, and again, you're right with overnight, but you don't work, your method is what you learned that doesn't take the simple keywords. I mean, with my site, I'm like, here's my login, here's my admin. And your answer was, honestly, I really don't need it. I'll play with it. But I'm like, how do you not need the admin to my website to play with it? And, you'll talk about your secrets and the tricks for people.
Sure.
But how long did it take you to rank, like, I think 8th now? You were like 2, but you're still top page for healthcare recruiting. 50,000 or 40,000 or 30,000, like, right? You were, it's major, right? Number of searches.
Well, now, according to Lumberg
here, on my screen too.
It should take just a weekend. Well, according to Lumberg, it should take just like a weekend, right? That's basically
exactly. No, it doesn't. I wish, but that's
is that Mike Brady? Is that Mike Brady?
No, it's Bill Lumberg from Office Space.
That's right.
That's Mike Brady, right? I played Mike Brady.
Unfortunately, that's the story told by too many. That's a lie, and they just take your money. So it's really, there's only one way to. If you're not going to do SEO, you got to do it to win, and that's really because you have to be ready for the investment, because you're not going to see leads, 4 or 5 months. Now, granted, if your site's powerful, for instance, now my site's powerful. If I choose to go in any city in the country for healthcare recruiters, I can get it ranked pretty quickly. For instance, like Atlanta or Chicago, I'm number 1 for both those of you healthcare recruiters, Chicago Atlanta, but that was after I started ranking for healthcare recruiters nationally, because I knew those cities would be hotbed for local searches. So I decided to pick a handful, see what I get. Now Atlanta is one of the areas that I got a lot of traffic coming in from, just because I went after local and I have keyword research tools. So it does take a long time. I do have some tips though. Talking with several of the recruiters, one of the things I realized is they really don't have a concept of how they should name their website. And that particular thing alone could cost you tens of thousands of dollars in additional revenue, or not revenue, but investment.
Well, let me ask you this, actually, if you don't mind. I want to back up here because I think like a lot of people, like Dwight Schrute over here, they think, hey, I'm in the yellow pages. I don't need SEO, or I make a metric shit ton of cold calls. What do I need SEO for? So I'm curious, before we get into the technical part, I think a lot of people here don't know the power of it. And in the context of, when you talk about marketing, there's, as an SEO expert, there's intent versus you going out there and just being in front of people versus somebody searching for you specifically. But if you can maybe just give a broad overview of why SEO might be important and how it would fit into the marketing game, and from there maybe we can go into some more actual detail.
Yeah, it's perfect. Again, like I mentioned earlier,
and
like
it's really without using the word engine or optimize. It's hard.
All right, without using
it's impossible, sir.
Right, it's gonna be hard. Well, maybe not. We can get there.
The word optimize or traffic. You can't use the word traffic or optimize, or you have to drink a beer, like Michael's G says.
All right. Well, we'll see how I do. So, really and truly, like I said, if you're out, this is a turbocharger. So what you want is this is very much a strengthen your brand. This is a strengthen your brand. It's a play for longevity. For instance, most people, if you ask them, most people think organic rankings are not manipulated. They think that if Google says they're number one, then that must be the top person for that search. A lot of people do not think about it from a standpoint of, hey, it's manipulated. That's why they scroll down from the ads. There's statistics out there that 70% of people scroll past the ads to go straight to organic, which is why organic is so powerful. The other thing about search marketing is that they're looking for a healthcare recruiter. They're looking for a cybersecurity recruiter. They're looking for a staffing agency that does healthcare, a nurse staffing agency. They're looking for those things. And of course, if you rank for those, like for instance, nurse staffing agency gets 4,400 searches a month. So if you're number one or on the top page for those type of keywords, it's going to, and obviously someone that's looking for it, maybe it's an executive assistant, and they're like, the executive assistant, they said, hey, go find me, this many companies that we're going to vet for this. And then what do? They go there and you go to the web and they try to see who's credible, who's number one on Google, who should we be talking to? Sure, we got all these cold calls because anybody can cold call, but hey, who is number one on Google? Who's the big player in town? So there's the perception that Google has, but also it's their request. They're searching for you. They're actively wanting you. Unlike a Facebook ad or unlike LinkedIn, I'm interruption marketing. This is very much, they want this service. That's why they're searching for it. And everybody Googles it. No one yellow pages it anymore. Yellow pages, not even a doorstop anymore. It's actually like a doormat. It's not even thick enough to be a doorstop. Yeah, that's
hysterical. But what makes you good, man? Like, you're a recruiter. You make a ton of money recruiting. You're really successful at it. What the heck got you down that path?
Well, yeah. So in 2009, I started recruiting, and I was doing nothing but cold call, giving a book and a list, and I have it on my nightstand because it reminds me that it's cool to have all this technology, but really and truly, all I needed was a little bit of knowledge and a list and some guts, right, to go get this done. All this other technology can be a distraction, complete distraction, and get you lazy. That being said, in 2009, I started doing it. 2013, I was getting burnt out because I was doing nothing but cold calling, just beating the phones, not following up, just, churning and burning, like probably a lot of folks out there that, recruiting, just calling each number. A no was done forever. Like we just kept going, no follow-up, just burning the line. 2013, I was burnt out. I was on a webinar. I was learning about search engine optimization. I'd thought about it previously, didn't know a lot about it, but it came across my desk a few times, like that makes sense to me. So anyway, I decided to join this mastermind. It cost me like $8,000. I didn't have the $8,000 at the time. I just said, but I couldn't afford not to do something because I knew the ship was sinking if I didn't do something. I couldn't keep going. So I decided to learn search engine optimization and started a digital marketing agency during that time and learning it and, ranking a lot of different companies from attorneys to lawyers to healthcare recruiters, obviously my own projects, SEO agencies nationally, really a ton of different industries, niches. And so, of course, through that, I've started learning how to rank. So most of my income currently comes from the digital marketing SEO space. The recruiting site really is, it's now ranking nationally. So there's a lot of opportunity coming to it. I get leads daily. My chat bot goes off crazy. I had to turn it off to get on the call because it'll just keep going off and it'll just be driving me nuts. That's why hiring 3 people to come in. I have leads sitting in the system. I just letting them sit there. I forgot about them last week. Last month, I probably lost 12 of them. Just because, and this isn't a brag, it's really a hole in my bucket I'm trying to fill with networking with guys like you guys. I mean, honestly, there's lots of opportunity on the web. There's lots of ways to leverage it. DSP side of it with the outbound, that to me is the engine. SEO is the turbocharger. Once that engine's fine-tuned and running, SEO can bring you some nice gems along the way. But if you plan it the other way, you're probably going to be disappointed.
How many times did you say engine? What did you not understand about the rules? You've blown it like 30 times already. How many times did you say the word engine? Like, seriously, you said that like you turbocharged that. You're like engine, traffic.
Well, it's hard to do.
Dude, he's an SEO guy. They talk in technobabble. It's their language, sir. You have to be respectful. Don't be. No, I'm offended that you would actually make fun of someone's native tongue.
That's funny. Sir. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm good at SEO. I'm a geek. I speak logic.
Maybe I'm bitter because he brings you up as a training expert.
SEO. All right, let me explain to you about
I'm just bitter because you mentioned DSP and great training. I was left out.
SEO language is the language of the oppressed. You know why? Because these are a bunch of nerds getting wedgies in high school, and now they've got some stroke. Now that they're kind of cool, you want to take it all away from them, Neil. You're probably the bully in high school, weren't you? Were you the bully? Or were you the bully?
Yeah, right. I was the bully too.
You were the bully?
I was neither. My sense of humor was my protection mechanism. So I was never bully ever, but I wasn't a bully. Actually, I was a bully to the people below the food chain on me. I'm not going to lie, but that's an insecurity thing. You know what I mean? But the real bullies, like the tough guys, like the football jocks, they didn't make fun, but I wasn't one of them. But let me just quickly segue.
My Taekwondo. I was Master Kumite champion, 1989.
Yeah, that's all after band camp, dude. All after band camp for you. So let me say, James Pemberton is not the oppressed geek. If he was, God bless him, because check out his Facebook group. And I don't need to get too personal. Your wife is freaking model smoking. She's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
And his daughter looks like what his family. This guy is not oppressed.
And that's what SEO will do for you.
That's right.
I'm telling you, it gets better.
SEO is a very good skill to have. What's that?
Let's talk about that, James. How did you land her? Because you're attractive, but you're not her good looking. You know what I mean? You know that, right? You definitely went up the food chain with her.
SEO.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, SEO was
it
SEO?
That's
the answer.
Yeah,
you put an ad for hot bachelor.
That and content.
That's right. That's right here.
A big
content.
Deal.
Yeah.
Anchorman
this is a funny. It's funny. It's funny.
By the way, I now run my show with memes. Are now our third are the third host of the show. By the way, I'm not sure if you were that.
I love it. There's the memes. Nice.
Yeah.
I like the sounds. Why don't you were supposed to be sound this week?
Supposed to be what?
What's that?
Sounds, audio. You were going to do audio.
Oh, audio? I am?
Instead of memes, audio.
I'm going to drink and haze half the time, sir.
You were going to you have a nice audio clip.
Someone posted this big old long link.
If someone has questions, they want specific answers, and I'm happy to share my screen if that's what you guys want to do. Because
I do have a question here. Actually, the Anchorman does rather, and not just about the true meaning of the word San Diego, but a little inside joke for those who've seen Anchorman. But I do want to ask about content. So Anchorman here says content's kind of a big deal. How does we all know SEO, it has to do with obviously ranking on Google, and maybe even occasionally, I don't know, like Bing. I heard Yo Dog, I heard you rank on Bing. Whatever it is, how does content play in versus things like, I don't know, backlinks? It's all memes. I'm telling you, it's all memes. I'm constructing questions by meme.
Could I add a framework?
I'm
going to shut up. I just want to add a framework. I want you to bring it back to how does this impact Mario R and his business? That's really what we need to know.
How does this impact Mario R?
Well, the couple of things that I wanted to share, and you mentioned content, and that was actually part of it. I have this acronym that I use, and I got it from a guy I learned from named Fletch. And he's the one that came up with it. So it was just so good I figured I'd share it, because Google likes to give some mystification of like there's all these 200 some ranking signals and all this extra BS that basically gets you to buy their ads, right? That's basically it. So he came up with this acronym called UMAC. The U stands for URL. So what this is referencing is the most important places for you have the key, the things you want in your content, so Google understands what your site is about. UMAC is the number, so that's the acronym. U being the most important spot, keyword in URL. And I can show you examples of this, but if your keyword is not in your root domain,
example that you help me with.
Yes, exactly. So if your keyword is not in the domain, it's going to cost you 5 to 6 times more in SEO, just because you're not being clear with what it is. So if I would have just been proactive.com, if I could have bought it, Google doesn't know what that even means in terms of my niche. But if I'm proactive healthcare recruiters, well, they know what it is. So I don't have to spend as much money convincing Google that that's what I'm about. So that's the U. M stands for metadata.
Shorter is more was the old adage for the URL. No? Shorter is better.
Shorter is more.
Was the original mantra.
It is if you're using your human brain, but if you're talking about Google search and trying to get it, having your brand plus keyword is way better, because again, your biggest job is to let Google know what your site is about. If you can't get on the site within 3 seconds and know this is a healthcare recruiting site or a cybersecurity site, or can't just be a headhunter, that's like not going to work, because then I need a specialist. I don't need just anybody. I need a specialist. And I think that's how most companies are looking for a third party.
If you were proactive, would you suggest that someone simply get a new one, Proactive Healthcare Recruiters, make that their at least SEO main one, and then just simply forward Proactive to the new site so that people who've built all this over years don't have to lose it?
Absolutely. That's part of it as well. But and even initially, like I need to see when you're naming your brand, think about like how that's going to be in the market. You're going to list this all over the web. You're never going to over optimize or kill your website marketing your brand. So it's a smart way to do it to minimize. I got examples here for the guys I'm ranking number 3 for healthcare recruiters. He's ranking number 2. He has over 7,000 backlinks and I have 1,000. Which profile would you rather pay for, the 1,000 links or the 7,000 links that it took him, because his keyword is not in the domain? It's going to cost him 5 times more to rank than me, because I just did one thing right, and that was name my domain correctly.
So if for someone who started a new practice, then you would advise them not to get too fancy with the name, but to be just very, very clear. Financial recruiting specialist or whatever it is, but I mean that's kind of generic.
Yes,
you get the
point. And if you go deeper in your niche, if you want to zero in on a niche, like if you want to go, the reason I didn't name my nurse like proactive nurse recruiters is because I wanted to include physical therapists and healthcare IT and maybe healthcare information management. So I broadened the scope of the topic and then started. Now it cost me more money to rank for more words because I broadened the scope. If you really wanted to zoom in, say I just wanted to rank for physical therapy recruiter for say, it'd be a lot easier for me to rank for that than it was for healthcare recruiters. But in the future of that site is very small. It's only going to be about physical therapy. It's not going to be much use to nurse or anything else because it doesn't fit the context of the searcher. So you want to make sure that you're categorizing things correctly. So if you are a cybersecurity recruiter, make sure your domain says something about IT security, or make sure the word recruiter or IT, whatever, cybersecurity, whatever that is, make sure you get your brand plus keyword. It's going to dramatically decrease the amount of money it's going to cost you to rank at the top of Google. If you don't, you can still do it. It's just going to cost you more.
Now, with that said, let's talk about content, because I know that for a lot of recruiters, they write content, and let's be real, most of the content's kind of crappy, but whatever. But let's say you write good content, and you write good content that people like. So for me personally, I like content as a lead generation tool because I like to garner a reaction on things like LinkedIn and all that kind of crap, right? So there's that. But on the other hand, there's content built for SEO. So what does that mean exactly for your average recruiter? How would you, if you want to follow that strategy, how would you start making content that's SEO friendly, and what would it do for you?
Sure. Absolutely. So that's a great question. So again, going back to that UMAC analogy,
a lot of
you're
great
setting up
questions,
your titles. Yeah, absolutely. You do a good job with that.
Yeah, thank you.
So again, going to the content. So you have a heading, you have in different parts of your website, you have heading tags, you have an H1, H2, and those are going to be the most important places for you to make sure your keyword is there. Now, you don't have to stuff it. You want to use your keyword once, maybe twice on the page. Use other relevant terms on the page to help reinforce that keyword. There are some tools and stuff that I can show you that it helps you figure those things out. They're cheap or free, and I gain nothing by sharing it. Just you'll be able to see where the traffic is when you're doing Google searches for yourself. So that helps you pick your keywords, helps you decide your content should sprinkle in your keyword, not keyword stuff, but sprinkle it in. If you're naturally writing a good article or a good piece of content for your user, it's probably going to be SEO perfect. The only thing you don't want to do with SEO really is you do not want to over-optimize. Under-optimizing is way better than over-optimize. Over-optimizing.
But why didn't you want to touch my site? Like, you didn't want to touch my site. You're like, Neil, I can get you to the top of the rankings, or I could get you like immediately change it without enter. How? Tell everyone, because that's amazing.
Well, yeah, so there's on-page SEO and there's off-page SEO, and the on-page SEO is like optimizing your car for the race. Like, you're getting the tune-up, you're getting everything lined up, you're getting your schema, your page titles, your content, all that lined up, so Google can understand that this is what it's about. But then what I need is on the off-page, I need someone to say, hey, the off-page is like people voting for your content almost. Say, hey, I got a link from this site that's highly authoritative for healthcare recruiters, and says that this site is also a great resource for healthcare recruiters. There's a commonality that's relevant. And when I'm coming from a site that, is relevant, that gets traffic, and it has my keyword and their URL, that gives a lot of signals to Google. Says, wow, this must be trustworthy. Doesn't look spammy. It's healthy. It's real good stuff. So now I'm going to trust that new website, my website, more. So how do because of the association.
How do you do it?
Well, I reach out to other.
How do you do it? Why would people want to?
Oh yeah, sure. So I reach out to other website owners so that I can get good quality links, traffic, so that they can rank higher in Google, so they get the traffic and the phone calls they want. So without these links, you're going to spend, if you're just doing a content strategy, which is great, it's going to take you, 10 years, unless you're writing some fire that it goes viral. But if you don't, we're going to need to get other websites to mention you on their and reference you as, again, I don't want any link. I want ones that are relevant for my niche. So if I'm an IT recruiter, I want IT recruiting. I want things that are relevant to IT to be pointing at my website. That's going to give Google more and more votes that your content is good for healthcare recruiters, for nurse recruiter, for whatever. And the 90% of SEO, the reason you pay an ongoing fee every month is because every single month I have to go out and get more and more of these links to keep up with the competition, and or just get you to the top of page one. And a certain amount of resources is going to be required to do that. And if you don't have enough resources, you're going to waste a lot of money. That's why I always tell people, like, you got to make sure you're ready for the investment. And it's not for everybody, but those that are ready for it, if they can see it through to the end, they will get the rewards. But if they do it for 4 months, it's going to be the biggest waste of time and money. And you got to have someone you can trust, someone that got results. Because if not, you're going to.
So with that, let me ask you. So with backlinks and link building, I know there's a lot of. Well, let's put it this way. Let's take that concept. If you could dumb it down, because we're dealing with recruiters here, and know the professional we have
the show. Talking about boxers
but first, like what would be like an example of link building? And is that something that somebody could do themselves, or obviously you use an expert for it? But what is link building exactly? What does that mean?
Well, there's several different types of links. You can get a link from a press release. You could get a link from Facebook, for that matter. It's a social profile that you would link to your website. You could get others that's trusted. You get a link from DSP here. Get a link from one of your friends that's a recruiter, and you write a piece of content, or they mention you on a piece of their content as being an expert in XYZ space. So the best analogy I can give you is really like this. So most of you guys don't know me from anything, but these two great guys, right? So there is some form of credibility built because you've brought me on your show. And this is no different than me like those two putting me on their website and saying, hey, we trust this guy to talk about SEO. That's all we're doing on the website. The same thing. We're getting other sites that we trust to point at us for the topic that we're an expert in. And that's giving Google a signal saying, hey, this guy seems to be a really good, relevant, trustworthy source for this information. We're going to continue to reward them with more and more rankings so that we can get the top of Google. And then you can start getting your leads coming in from organic search. And the more traffic you get, the more click-throughs you get. And it's confirming to Google that this is good content, that all Google wants to do is give you the user the most relevant search results they can provide. So if we're feeding them the right content and not just spammy garbage you get on Fiverr or sitting some, because you can get cheap links, and cheap links become very expensive at some point, especially if it tanks your website or it doesn't move it, those types of things.
How about the YouTube link? And after I know that Google bought YouTube, that was, and for me, it certainly worked in the past. So I continued doing it where I backlink from YouTube, and I'm show up at the top of rankings so often with those words.
Sure, yeah. So YouTube obviously is owned by Google, like you mentioned, and they love themselves. So any platform that's owned by Google will rank a lot easier in the search engine if you leverage them correctly. We've even ranked sites with the Google My Business sites where we use the Google Drive, the Google Doc, the Google Excel sheet. We made them public. We interlinked them, and we rank those on Google as well. They'll all rank, and you can literally rank a Google Doc for anything you want if you make it public. So those are different things, but Google loves itself. So if you use those properties and you interlink them and whatnot, it becomes very, very powerful. We call them Google Stacks.
Now with that said, how important, and Exhibit wants to know this, how important is Bing in the realm? Like if I want to rank for Bing, let's be real. No one says, well, you should Bing it. Right, go look at Bing.
They do, not in that context.
Yeah,
look at
we
Bing.
don't. I mean, we set up, we set up for Bing. We set up for Bing, but our focus is Google. Google's the 800-pound gorilla. If we rank on Google, we're probably going to be ranking just fine on Yahoo and all the other ones. And more importantly, Google's like over 80% of the market. So if we win Google, you pretty much won the race. However, we do set these things up so that we can rank in Bing, but largely it's omnipresent marketing. This is just another facet of it. You say that quite often with your marketing and things. And SEO is just another part of that. It's just another tool in that arsenal of things that's part of that. If you're not on Google and you're everywhere else, well, then maybe it's a play you want to make for your company.
Did you and going back to the old topic, did you Bing your wife before you met her?
No, that was 1998. Wow. That was like before the internet was even like a big deal, like back then. So yeah, no, I met her just, went in for, I always laugh. I went in for a beer.
Have you ever binged her?
Oh yeah. Well, I got a wife and 2 kids, so I guess so.
So you were dirty. Your wife wouldn't do that.
Everyone watching this should bing your wife. Is that wrong?
That's right.
Bing your wife right now. Oh man. Yeah. Ever bing yourself? Do you bing yourself? Is that a thing?
That's right. You bing yourself. That's right.
Am I using Bing the wrong way?
Yeah.
Am I using it the wrong way? Are we talking about 2 different things right now? I'm talking about something else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you might be using it the wrong way.
That's Mario R. Actually, Mario.
James,
R.
I want to rank on Ask Steve.
What?
What's that?
Hey. So I don't know what I think it's the sound cut off. Which is fantastic. See, the show dramatically improves when Neil Lebovits and the sound cuts off.
It's funny.
Done it now, and that just killed it. Anyway, so Mario R is here. Hey, Mario R. Mario R, who is my nemesis. If you were more than one Mario R, he'd be Nemesi. I believe that's a plural for nemesis. Nemesi. It's a herd of Nemesi. Anyway, that said, we've gone off the rails here. Back to SEO. So you've got so you've got backlinks, we've got content marketing, and of course, or not content marketing, but content. And there's also, I guess, naming your site, naming your business, et cetera, and all that. Are there any other things that a solo recruiter could do on their site to kind of get that process rolling before they brought in professional help, or should they just bring in professional help? I mean, let's say they're on a budget.
Well, and if you're on a budget, and you're probably, I don't want to say like, if you're on a budget and you're needing leads today, SEO shouldn't be the thing you're thinking about at all. Period. It just isn't, because it really is a longer term investment in your business. It's a 6 to 12 month process. And I always tell my clients before we start, like, look, we're 6 months into this and you haven't gotten one lead yet. You spent $15,000 and you haven't got one lead. Are you going to be able to handle the rest of the investment? Or are you going to freak out and get emotional? Because if you are, you're going to lose. So I just need to know, like, it's 6 months. How are you going to feel when you don't have a lead coming in yet? And if they're good with that, I might get some
what's
leads.
Good news is people here aren't talking books, right? They're not peddling books. They're peddling a super high-end ticket. They need one deal that you're basically saying, yeah, just delay that deal a little bit, right? In order to pay for this for a year and a half.
What I'd say is, yeah, I mean, most of everybody, like if I hear about it, most sites are probably going to be about $30,000 or so, $2,500 a month or so to rank at the top of Google for their niche. And it's going to depend on niche. Some are more competitive, some are less competitive. But if I don't have enough resources to win the game, then you don't win the game. I mean, it's as simple as that. I can't, you can't just say, I don't want to bake the cake the whole way. I want it afterwards. You're going to have a soup. You're not going to have a cake. You're going to have soup. So it's the same thing here. Like, we can, if you don't commit to the entire investment to do it, you're going to lose. And most people that come in, the biggest thing I see wrong with people's marketing budgets, they're underfunded and they have gross expectations of what they're going to get. And if you have to spend a certain amount of money to win. If you don't have it, then it's best that you go back to grassroots and earn your stripes, earn your fees, get your thing. And then as you do it, then you can invest in things like SEO. I've seen too many people that almost go out of business trying to rank for SEO. They're 6 months in, they can't afford it, they can't fund it. They thought they're going to get this. They thought I was kidding, that 9 to 12 months was some kind of joke, and then now they can't fund the rest, and now they lost, and they have no way to win because they're stuck in the middle, trying to get to California, and they're stuck in the middle of Texas because they didn't have enough resources to get to the goal.
Self-fulfilling?
Well, you know what?
Self-fulfilling in the sense that once you rank, you'll rank better over time. Like once you sort of get over that hump, it's kind of like the rich getting richer.
Well, sure. Like that's one of the reasons I'm ranking for over 900. I think over 900 keywords now, because the more I kept building, the more I kept ranking. But that was a couple-year process for me, and I didn't invest in it. I haven't put a dime into proactive in probably over 6 months now. But it sits there, and I still get leads. I can push on it more, and sure, it could rank a little bit better. But it's on page one for a ton of stuff. I do SEO mainly, so, and I'm working on scaling it up and getting the right people in place with me. But it takes time.
Well, so I want to talk about that. So going back to what you were saying with regard to people putting too much focus on SEO initially and thinking that's going to be this cornucopia of leads.
Because I don't want to cold call. That's like the bullshit they sold millions of dollars. I don't want to cold call. I don't want to talk to people. Well, then go work for someone else, because that ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like so for example, it's like if you want to look at the world of young dudes, trying to meet girls. If you've got no social skills and you think, well, if I just wear the right thing, or what's the trick? There's no trick. At the end of the day, you need to be a good, a sociable person and interesting, and You're same thing here. Like even if you get an inbound lead, if you can't close them on the phone, how do you develop your closing skills? Get on the phone and talk to prospects. And so when you look at, say, like in my program, for example, we do a lot of, I don't do SEO, but I do, content marketing, the advertising and the messaging, all that kind of jazz. But it's like, I call it hunting and farming. You got to be willing to, farming is where the cornucopia, that's where the riches are. But man, you got to hunt, because farming is going to take a few seasons. It's going to eventually bloom, but you got to do 80% hunting, 20% farming. And then your hunting will help your farming, but over time you can kind of do this. But if you go in thinking, well, I don't have to hunt anymore, you're going to go hungry, because it's going to take a while for your farm to bloom, because you see somebody else over there with a bountiful farm, think, well, he did it. Well, yeah, it took him like 3 years. But you get there, learn how to hunt first, get good, and eventually your farming will kind of take over, right? That's the way I always look at it.
And this is, again, a turbocharger. It brings in some wonderful leads, but if you're just sitting there waiting for that phone to ring, just staring at it, I've seen technology literally just make people lazy. And again, it's one of the reasons I leave that one book on my stand with the list, because I know I don't need the computer and all that. It's a nice tool. It's a nice leveraging point, but I really just need a list and a phone to get it done, to make some money to feed my family. There's all this other stuff is great.
Can you see the wild horse, by the way, the wild horse in the background while I'm on my show?
Oh, yeah.
Not exciting. A wild horse just running around my little house. Anyway, sorry about that.
Pretty cool. No, you're good. But yeah, I mean, biggest thing with SEO is just don't be sold a bag of crap. I mean, if you're looking for $500 a month, I'm telling you, you're probably not going to rank. They're probably just taking your money, and we call them the dirty dinosaurs. A lot of the bigger companies people entrust. Yellow Pages was one of them. They'll take your money. They're not hardly doing anything to get anything for you, to get you results, to get you to top of page one. Make sure that if you're going to talk SEO, they say, what is SEO? Does it mean top of Google, or are you just mean going to optimize my site and keep giving me excuses for month after month of why it's not moving?
So your new clients,
because they're not doing backlinks.
So your new clients, by the way, are much like Saul Goodman over here, waiting for that phone to ring, and it never rings. Right? Great show.
Or if it does ring, and they record the phone call, it would blow your mind at how much the money they'll spend, and almost to be like, what do you want? Like, what are you doing? Like, you got a phone call and this is like showtime, and you're not even ready. Like, oh man, I got to wake up real quick.
Yeah, it's a powerful intent. A lot of people don't think about intent in marketing. They think about what our intent is. We make our calls, and hopefully we get somebody when they happen to have a need. But there is I talk a lot about the buyer's journey. Not to go into too much of it here, but if the more intent they have, the more committed they are, the more willing they are typically to work with you. And so, for example, if someone happens to you happen to catch somebody on a cold call, there's not very much intent there. But if they download your thing, go to your website, do that, and they read that, and then they search on Google, there's a lot of intent that just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. And it's almost kind of like a yes ladder. They talk about in sales, you want to get a little bit of a yes ladder, even get them to jump through little small hoops, and then you can get them to jump through bigger. It's kind of the same thing. It's just how can you get them to show intent? And SEO, I'd imagine, is probably one of the the nuclear missile of intent, if you will, right? Because they're actually going online, searching for the thing, and searching you out, ideally. But yeah, that's power of intent, man.
It sure is. So I mean, it's really like, I mean, it's a very powerful service. It's
Oh, news time.
Right, that's where you're supposed to get the audio from.
I was
supposed to get a nice
graphic. That was like a little graphic.
Oh yeah, I'm on vacation mode. I don't want to mess with the graphics because my internet connection kind of blows, as you could tell. So I don't want to make it any worse. But you are going to get a news audio graphic because we agreed last week that we weren't doing the news. We weren't doing the news sound anymore. It became its own weird thing.
So I guess I look at like a Morse code thing. People think people don't get it.
Right.
Oh, by the way, Michael G. Cox just chimed in. Bruh, the show's getting big time, over 10 viewers. Woohoo! And we got a guy that's bruh that watches the show. That's our demographic right there. Bros.
Yeah, well, Michael G. Cox offered us to be the first sponsor. He offered $1, and I'm wondering, how would we split that up? I mean, is it 50-50 you and I? Do we do 40-40-10 for the guests? Is there a residual? How would that work?
I don't know. How would that work? Actually, I don't think so. So can we split up pennies? Like, how do we, I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, there's a coin shortage now. So apparently if we did pennies, actually, but pennies might be worth something. I don't know.
All right. So I would say Michael G. Cox could agree online, give us a penny, and then simply double it every day. That's all we ask for. Like, that's a month. That's all. Just double the penny every day for a month. Agree to it legally on here, and we'll take that instead of the $1. Does that work, Michael G. Cox?
He's not dumb enough for that. that compound interest trick.
Pennies.
So what kind of news do we have? What kind of news do we have to talk about?
Yeah, so this is all interesting stuff to the industry. So consumer confidence fell again. Okay, we know all the bad news out there. Fell in July, not a shock. However, jobs are much more upbeat. So whereas the numbers continue to fall pretty drastically on consumer confidence, okay, you now look at, despite this, the Conference Board polls, right, for job prospects, they say that, listen to this, is a true bell curve. 21.3%, all right, say jobs are plentiful. 1 out of 5 people say they're plentiful, and only 20%, these are all up and down respectively, say that they're hard to get. The rest, fall into that spectrum. What do you think of that, and why? Why in such a down economy? Or consumer confidence, let's say, is that happening?
Well, it's
but
so
good news for us.
It is good news, but it's so subjective. It's kind of like, you know, when they do these studies of, like I said, not to get political, but but healthcare, for example, whether universal healthcare versus other countries, and we'll say, well, this country has better rate healthcare than us, and they say, well, yeah, but it's subjective. They're not looking at the numbers, and so I'm curious. You know, people, I think subjective analysis or subjective polling will tell you one thing. Maybe it's just a matter of people kind of wish things were better. But I'm curious, though. Confidence does do a lot of things for the economy, for sure. But I just think personally, I think there's some things that some people aren't really thinking about. Like, for example, the house. I think there's going to be a housing bubble. I think you got what, a third of people are missing their house payments right now. You're going to have, and you're also going to see a deflation in housing prices, I believe, as well. On top of that, I think, you know, we've got a few more bumps in the road. There's a lot of opportunity, for sure. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a few more bumps in the road that I think people aren't thinking of necessarily. Unfortunately,
how could it not be, right? How could it? It's like the internet bubble and the housing bubble of the past and the subprime. How could it not be, is my take. Now, again, you know, I sold all my stock ages ago. Now I'm just beginning to get closer with the stock market going down a bit. But it's how can it not, I guess, is my take. But jobs, again, the good news is it's an understaffed sort of economy with all the furloughs, and it's not enough really for people to sustain it. Yeah.
That's true. So there is for sure. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for products and services, because things have been on hold for so long. And if we can ever get out of these goddamn lockdowns and start really moving things, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand there, and I think we're going to kind of we're for sure going to see a big bounce back, 100%. 100%. I guess the question is really is when is that going to happen, and also for the listeners here, who are they preparing to take advantage of it? Because if you're not making moves to take advantage of what's going on, you're going to be left out in the cold, because this is way different than the last recession, and you got to really start thinking creatively how you could be like, how can you be an essential? How can you become an essential service? You got to really
and listen, not to give a commercial, David, for what I do with my back office for temp, but another article came out. And again, it's important because you need to any recovery always, so perm in the recession always falls off a cliff. Temp comes slower, and it also recovers first. And on July 30th, executives expect greater use of contingent workers post pandemic. Now, that was actually a poll from the Conference Board, which is a major leader. So you do need to get into temp, whether, you know, it doesn't matter. You need to do it. You need to look at it and take advantage of your inventory, because it's a way to get your business there. Now, I don't want that to be a commercial. I want to go into something interesting. Another one is they think that the staffing industry is going to be a prime target for audits of taxes in 2021 because of the PPP. So take a guess, guys, both of you, because this blew my mind. How many PPP dollars do you think were estimated that were paid out to staffing firms? PPP dollars, how many?
Oh, gosh. Let's say 1.
I wasn't anywhere near, so don't worry about being so off.
1.2 billion.
Wow. James?
I'm going to say 300 billion.
300 billion?
I'm going to say $1 trillion.
Yeah, $1 trillion. Yeah.
$1 billion.
Right.
No, and I didn't mean to laugh, because I told you to say anything. There's no wrong answer. Then I laugh. 3.6 to 7.9 billion. Right, but that's major. So that was 11,000 staffing firms, right? And out of that, more than a third of them, almost a half of them, took more than $150,000. Okay. That's a huge amount. So, and they're worried that they said that in doing a quick phone audit before they're going to decide what they're going to do, that staffing firms registered external employees, which they're not allowed to do. So in essence, they were double dipping. They were both getting the PPP, and individuals were taking either unemployment and getting paid twice in essence. So, wow, what do you think of that?
Well, there's so little oversight with these things. I mean, well, let's be real. When this happened, we had to get something in the hands of Americans because it was such a as opposed to slow down where the train kind of slows. In this case, it was the engine stopped and everything kind of backs up against the end of the end. So it was dire straits. And so I think obviously there's going to be a lot less oversight. I think now they're going to look back and say, shit, we really screwed the pooch on this one. And they're going to want to get some of that money back. But yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of folks that got PPP that didn't. I ended up not getting it, ended up just not at all because I didn't want to borrow from my kids. But maybe that was a stupid decision. I don't know.
Listen, I think that they're going to get the money back. Okay, they're not stupid. It's worth the government to spend $100 million to recoup $1 billion. Okay, it's worth spending $400 million to recoup $4 billion. You just look at the staffing industry alone. Out of that let's meet somewhere in the middle. Let's call it $6 billion. How much of that would they recoup? And you know the own answer because I've talked to people who got very creative. Well, I'm allowed to get unemployment. I'm allowed to do this. They're external, but and at the end of the day, they might be nicer than they're going to do. But I think the message here is don't worry about an audit. And you can say, well, I'm independent. They go after independence on audits and things in different businesses all the time. Just make sure, as you know, when it's time to be paying back, which is very soon now, it's coming up. When you're paying back this loan, don't be overly aggressive. And if you need to pay some back, I think that will be. Again, it's just opinion, but being an ex-CP or a CPA, I think if you pay some back, say, look, I wasn't entitled to all of it, but I was entitled to 90%. Here's my payment back. I don't think they're going to look at those people, is my guess. So again, if you're cheating the system or you're aggressive, I would look at it.
Yeah. I think so. I think you're right about that. I think to be as above board as humanly possible for sure. But again, like I said, I didn't get it, so I don't have to worry about it. Thank God. But I do know that there are going to be some business owners going to be sweating here pretty soon, wondering, what's going to shake out here. But I think, but look, I don't blame people. It was a lot of folks were panicked, didn't know what was going to happen. They thought the sky was falling, and when the sky is falling, you'll do whatever it takes to put food on your family's table. You know what I mean? But
anyway, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So one last quick thought, then we'll go to closing. And this isn't a thought. This is just an interesting number, so you know it with your clients. But we've hit before the pandemic, the lowest drop in GDP was in World War II. Phases. It was post World War II. The World War II is when they started tracking it. So it's a decent amount posted, but it was 10% in 1958. They expect now that GDP had contracted in the second quarter by almost 35%.
Ooh.
Right. So, I mean, that's the largest decline by far that they've seen.
But that said, it is the factor of the train stopping dead and then everything kind of backs up behind it, which has never really been experienced. So I think it'll definitely bounce back for sure. I mean, but it is going to take a while for it to completely recover. There's going to be a bounce back, 100%. But it's just the weirdest. 2020 has been a kind of a weird year. I'm half expecting aliens to come down, and I bet people will be like, "Oh, it's 2020. What are you gonna do? 2020." Like it's.
There was a post going around Facebook that asked if 2020 was a food dish, what would it be? And there's some super fun answers. I mean, I think the winning obvious one, without being crazy, was liver. Right? I think it's the year of the liver. Then there's that Minneapolis whitefish that's like salted and cured and supposedly disgusting. Or whatever it is, I don't know. Do you have a food in closing? What food would you say it is, guys? James, what food? Putting you on the spot. 2020.
I've got one. What say you, James? What say you?
Baked beans.
Baked beans.
Baked beans are good.
Delicious. Baked beans are delicious.
A molasses sauce with some pork. Wow.
Yeah, I'd say like blood sausage. What's it called, haggis or something like that? That blood sausage.
Oh, that's outstanding. Blood sausage. Fabulous.
Really?
I mean, I've had a great 2020 other than this crazy shit stuff.
Actually,
wait, you like blood sausage?
I got it.
No,
I got the food. I got the food. Here's the food. If you said, look, what 2020 is what food dish? Like, the food dish is this. Simply go on Fear Factor, the blindfold, and eat whatever they put in front of you. That is the dish of 2020.
There you go.
That's it.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Give you donkey dick or whatever. Whatever's in front of you.
You're right.
You got to eat. That is 2020 but that said, not all is lost. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think there's going to be lots of winners. There's going to be lots of losers. It's all about how you position yourself, rethink your business, and look at different markets. I mean, look, there's a lot of recruiters that are putting together career coaching packages. They're doing quite well with that. So it's not, in fact, I'm doing the same thing myself. So it's not out of the ordinary to look at different things that you can do using the skill set that you have, right? But anyway, that said, I guess let's wrap this up and let's ask James. So if you were to, I guess two things. One, what are some really quick things that somebody could do to ramp up their SEO? And if they wanted to use you, how would they go about doing that, sir? Please.
Sure. Well, the first thing you want to do when you're ramping up SEO, in the chat over there, I put a free tool. Well, I think they might charge a few dollars. It's very minimal. And it's a great tool. It's called Keywords Everywhere. I would install it in your Google Chrome browser and start Google searching, and you'll notice a bunch of new data showing up in your browser, and you're going to start seeing how many searches other people are searching for. You're going to see the cost per click for that search. If it's a high cost per click, it's a good indicator that keyword's making somebody money. Or why would they be paying $30, $40 for a single click or embedding that with Google dollars? So that little tool will help you kind of see where the traffic is for your niche as you're searching different keywords. It'll also give you suggestions on different keywords that you might want to optimize your site for. Once you have that information, that's when you can start really naming your pages and your other part of the site. So that's a quick tip. It's very basic, but if you are in a niche, put your niche on the site. Don't assume like you're a headhunter and there's no niche. I mean, you're probably not ever going to get called. Niche, riches are in the niches. So make sure they know what niche you serve, so they know you're the expert for that niche. That's the other thing I noticed. Some people just don't even put it. Just put executive recruiter. Well, great. I need one in engineering. Yeah. What's that?
The funny thing is that the beaches are I will say this for a concept that has been driven into the ground in this industry. Because I mean, recruiters been talking. Tony Bird was talking about when I first got in the business, and he was old back then. That was 20 years ago. They've been talking about it incessantly, niche, and you still get people that say, "Well, yeah, but I don't want to limit myself." And it's weird. Like, man, sometimes it's just like. It's one of my frustrating things that it's such a basic thing. Some people just
if anyone out there has a hyper niche and you bill a lot of money, talk to us. We'd love to get you on the show. Hyper niche where you bill a lot from, because that's a great show right there.
It'd be a lot easier to rank that kind of stuff. Investment a lot less. Return be a lot greater.
My mentor, not only my mentor, but the first person who really trained me in search when I got in, she was not a great person personally. I learned a lot of bad things from her, but I learned a lot of good things as well. But one thing I will say, she was, in her 60s, battle axe of a woman. Just like her closing technique was take it, and she'd hang up the phone, and then they'd take the job. Like if she was just that kind of recruiter. But she made a living, probably, $350,000, $400,000 a year 20 years ago. It's pretty good, in surety bonds. And in her industry, there were two recruiters working surety bonds, her and one other. They ran that niche, and that's an example of like a hyper niche, right? You don't need a big niche. She had, probably less than 1,000 people at the time in her entire candidate database, and she made a living at that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
In terms of getting a hold of me, I mean, you can look at my website, proactivehealthcarerecruiters.com. That's my website. Check it out. I'm happy to show anybody anything they want. I mean, if you direct message me, I got some time, I'll jump on. I've been doing that for a few other recruiters just to give them the real deal. I just don't want to see people get taken advantage of for the most part. SEO is one of those things that's a mystical unicorn to a lot of folks. And if you don't get the right advice, it's just going to cost you a lot of money, and you're going to say it doesn't work, but it does work if you do it correctly. You just got to find the right person that you can trust. So if you guys need any help, just direct message me here.
Yeah, exactly. I've known James for a long time. I can vouch for him. A good guy, very trustworthy. And so if there's any SEO guys that I recommend, definitely be him. Well, let's wrap things up here.
So have a good one.
Well, Well, that's I want to give an opportunity here, if we can. We haven't done this the last couple of shows. I know, James, you had a chance to talk about yourself. Neil, let me ask you: do you have anything you want to promote or get out there to the literally tens of viewers that we have?
Listen, if I get just one of these 10 viewers to use my back office service, I can buy myself a nice dish for one of those home delivery things. So no, back office, honestly, for temp, you all need to get in it. So I do it for you. As you know, I set up people in their back office. I become the employer. You need to do it. You've got unemployed people. Listen to my audio, email me for the audio on how to sell temp to all your existing customers. Okay, and I'll help you with that. But thank you for that, David.
Awesome. Hey, you got it, man. And I guess for me,
what's your new launch? Because I know you won't say it if I don't.
So yeah, I just launched the careerhunters.io, which is geared towards both candidates, right? But teaching them the headhunting skills they can use in their own careers. We just launched that. Secondly, Digital Headhunter is up next because that site's been down for a long time. But I am taking calls now for the Accelerator, which has been my flagship program for 2 years, as well as my new Lighthouse Mentorship program, as well as Tactical, which is my lead gen program I've been running for about 8 months or so. And so if anybody's interested in that, hit me up. Happy to shoot you a link. Sales page isn't up yet technically. And then last but not least, next week we are back up on our Rise Up Masterclass recession, I guess you say master classes. So should have something posted up as far as our next class on recession proofing your business next Wednesday. And the replay on that, on the last one, should be up here in the next day or so. And that is, and I got the Pocket Headhunter coming out, my new app. A lot of shit, man.
Jeez,
busy man.
busy man.
Hey, look at you.
I don't play around. You know what I'm saying?
Getting it done.
Shit.
I heard that.
All right, folks. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I love you all, and except for you, Mario. You can go to hell. Just kidding. You're my favorite. I love you. That said, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. We are going to keep improving the show, so I would love any constructive criticism as long as it is positive and tells me how awesome I am and how Neil can improve. That is the kind I'm looking for. That said, everybody, thank you very much. I love you all, and peace out.
Ow. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you for watching Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. Who doesn't love Headhunters and Boxers? And who doesn't love talking smack? Join the show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern, live in the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter Community. Make sure you click one of these boxes here and watch some of these videos or something. I don't know what's going on here. I just work here.